Our first guest has had dreams and visions of success in the music business since she was 13 years old. She currently is a Billboard charting alternative rock/pop singer, songwriter, producer, and pianist. She's released incredible numbers such as Bookstore, Bad Habit, Don't Make Me Bad, and her album I Woke Up Alive, all while operating her own Music Square studio in Nashville with her partner Jacob Kulick, and she's also building a new project with a hard rock metal sound, emulating that of her first band in the Rose Monarch. Without further ado, here's April Gabrielli on the debut episode Dare to Dream Loud podcast.
I'm so done with overdramatics. Just wanna be boring, but then I won't act the way that I want to all of the time. Oh baby, be mine. Oh baby, be mine. You gotta know there's a look in your eye. Oh, do you see my...
Welcome to the debut interview guest episode of Dare to Dream Loud podcast. I'm here with April Gabrielli, who I'm trying to explain how we know each other, and I feel like it's a long-winded answer. But basically, we went to the same high school. We're from the same community, but we're both kind of pursuing things. Of course, my voice goes right in the beginning, but April, how are you? It's so good to see you.
It's good. It's great to see you too. I'm glad that we're able to connect on these things after so many years of knowing each other.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, when I first started doing things for Down the Rabbit Hole Media, you were one of the nicest people who reached out and supported it. And I was also aware that you are a real life rock star because I've known you since high school. I've known the music scene that you guys were a part of. I know some of the people you used to jam with, I remember, from class and everything. And you told me a nice story. First, you told me a nice story about my sister, which I was completely unaware of. So that's kind of how this whole thing started. And then you were like, oh, I love your show. I'm a huge Lions fan. And I was like, wow, I had no idea you're even a football fan. I had no idea that was even a side of you. But I wanted to have you on here because this whole series is about not only people who dream big, but people who are actively doing what they can to turn it into something more. Obviously, there's a lot of psychology there. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad, I feel like, to be really honest. But I just wanted to have you on here to talk about all of it because you are so successful at what you do. And for those that don't know, April Gabrielli is not only an artist, she's a talented musician. She runs a recording studio. And I'll shut up because I want to let you talk about it. But why don't you first talk about what made music special for you? Because everybody says they love music, right? But what about it is so particularly special for you?
It's so hard to really accurately answer that question because my earliest memory as a human being was me standing at a coffee table. I was probably like 3 or 4, based on talking to my mom about this memory and things like that. I was probably about 3 or 4. My very first memory was standing at a coffee table in my living room in my first home. And I remember listening to music. My parents always had music on in the background. My first favorite band was the B-52s. That was like a band that was always on in my house. And I remember listening to music and dancing and standing there and then having this weird vision of a bunch of kids and people on a stage. I have a very vivid memory of what it was, but I just remember them all singing and dancing. And I just thought to myself, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
So it was instinct out of the womb, basically.
It was just something I never questioned. I never really thought of doing anything else. I just immediately, and I don't know how to explain that. I'm spiritual, so maybe it's a God thing. I don't know.
I think you are explaining it quite well.
Yeah, I don't, it's just such a interesting thing. But yeah, that's kind of always just been in my mind. And it's always been very broad. But, my mother taught me how to play piano and sing. Music's always just sort of been around my house and always encouraged. I know a lot of people, growing up in the industry, a lot of people aren't encouraged to pursue music in general or anything creative or anything that's not linear. So I was always encouraged to also play music and sing and be the best at it. So I think that also sort of is why it's special to me, because it was never I was never shamed for enjoying it, which unfortunately a lot of young creative people are, because they're usually eccentrics, or, a lot
Maybe
of
it's
people
considered
don't.
outlandish, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because there's no matter how, like, there's so many famous people or just successful musicians, they all got there in such different ways. Even Jacob and I, like, we have very similar stories in what we've achieved, but the way in which we got there was so different. And they were only within the same, within the same years, around the same people in the same city. And it was a completely different scenario. So, yeah, I guess music's just always sort of been in my head and in my heart, and I never really questioned it,
I
honestly.
would say, and your soul as well. It's mind, body,
Yeah.
and spirit, right? The Greeks were onto something there. Now,
I agree.
you mentioned a gentleman named Jacob. I know him
Yes.
as the artist Kulick. And for
Hmm.
those that don't know, he is your new fiance. Are we allowed
Yes.
to? We're breaking that story. I mean, obviously, it was
Yes.
already
You
broken
heard it
on
here
social media.
first.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah.
tell me a little bit about Jacob and your relationship, and your as not only as significant others, but as business partners.
Okay. Oh, there's so much there. Jacob's the best. I'll try to keep it short because I could go off. But we met
You're beaming and
I know
blushing.
I am.
He's not here.
It's no, I know. He
I'm
slept in
teasing.
today, so I really haven't hung out with him yet, which he
All
never
good.
does. He's
All
usually
good.
on like a 10-mile run and in an ice bath by now, but
Wow.
anyway, so yeah, so I haven't hung out with him today yet. But we met when my band, one of my first bands, the Rose Monarch, opened for his band Kulick at the time, um, on one of their first headline tours. So we opened for them at Amityville Music Hall on Long Island. It was a last
Great
minute
spot.
ask. It was a great little spot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a last minute ask of a guy that usually books there and kind of was helping us out with touring acts and things like that. So I was excited because, he was signed to a major label at the time. And I mean, for so many years, just, I hear no all the time. It's just a part, I realize now it's a part of like the job and the journey. But I mean, it's just always so cool to get close to people who are, ahead of you in theory, or like somebody has a major label deal. At that time, I had no idea what that even entailed. That's so exciting. It's really cool. So anyway, we opened for them, and I had a pretty good show, and it was a great crowd and all that stuff. And then, I kind of dilly dallied off and was selling merch and whatever, like one does. And then, my friend Kevin Iserman, who was in the Rose Monarch at the time, also went to our high school, and
Loved the
still a
Rose
great
Monarch.
friend.
I really
Yeah.
did. Like, I really loved the music. Especially, am I allowed to say names? Who's in the
Oh yeah, yeah,
Ja-
yeah. Please,
James
we're all still
Humphreys?
friends.
Loved
Yeah,
James Humphreys, not only as a
yeah.
person but as a guitar player.
No, he's
When he did
so
"This Is the
special.
End" at our high school talent show, that people were moved to tears. I remember that very, very
No,
clearly.
it's legendary. If I bring him up,
Hmm.
that's what they always talk about, these Eddie Vedder covers and things like that. So it's just so amazing. Like, yeah, but we had a really, like, everybody was so, you know, everybody was a lead. It was like lead guitarist. My brother was like a lead drummer. Matt was like a
Yeah,
lead bassist. Like, everyone was just sort of like, it was the
it's the
five of
ultimate
us sort
jam
of.
band.
It
Everybody was
was it
doing
was
their
a good
thing. I
group.
loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good group. We're still in the band group text, although we're not like actively putting out music. But we're always still talking, and
We'll wait for the
there's
reunion
such a
tour.
yeah. We'll get there one day. But anyway, so I actually, funny enough, I wasn't watching Jake's set after when he started playing at that show we opened for him at, and Kevin texted us. Kevin's the ultimate music lover and always is the one finding the new stuff before everyone else. So he texted the group chat and was like, "This guy's actually pretty good. You guys should come in here." Because, like, I don't know, they went to go get pizza. Like, this is just kind of a thing with shows. Sometimes you stay, sometimes you don't. It
It sounds
was
like the most
pouring.
Long Island evening
It's
ever.
so Long Island, which is the best kind of thing. But, it was pouring rain. It was like the Monday after Thanksgiving. It was kind of a rough day. My brother's drum broke in the middle of the first song. So there was just
Oh
like a
my
lot
god.
going on. So it was a little hard to just sit and be like, "Oh, everything's fine." But yeah, so Kevin actually texted us all, and he's like, "This guy's like really good. His songs are good. He sounds great. Like, you guys should really come check him out." And we're like, "All right, fine." So I went in and I was like, wow, he's really good and really cool, whatever. And honestly, when somebody's really talented or like, and they're sort of new too, it's like, if they're not super famous, like you never know. Like some people are really into themselves and like don't want to
Right.
share the wealth,
Right.
which I'm not into. Like you should always share the wealth. Like it's not like somebody's just gonna, there's only one spot for someone to be successful. It's like everyone can be successful.
Right.
But anyway, I'm being long-winded. Anyway, so after he
No,
played,
I
I was
want to
like,
hear
hey
the
man,
story. Did your heart sink
yeah.
into your feet, or were you like, this
No,
guy's
not
a jerk?
yet.
Like, what was the initial?
No,
Yeah.
not yet. I mean, because I was like waiting to meet this guy, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play it cool, whatever. And then I was like, you were so great, like, good job, like, congrats on the first tour, whatever. And then he's like, actually, he's like, I thought you were like really great, like, you have a great voice. Do you write? Like, I want to hear about your
He knew
project. I
right
was like,
away. I
yeah.
can tell you right now.
I was like, yeah, I guess so. So he was really nice and just like forthcoming with anything he could really offer. So he was like, I write a lot of the time at Sony Music Publishing. He's still published by Sony. He's like, I write there a lot in New York. Like, we should just
Cool.
do a writing session. Because at the time I was also living in New York City. So I was like, okay. So I'd never really at that point, maybe once before, I had written at like a major publishing office, but I was like, oh, shit, like he's like inviting me to go do this thing. So I was like, all right, whatever. Maybe he'll follow up on it. Because people do these things all the time. They'll invite you, but then maybe they don't follow through. So then fast forward, we just kind of after the new year, like got together for a session, like right at the top of 2019. And then
So
the
it
first
started with just
song,
music. No, nothing other than music. Is that
no,
correct? Okay.
correct. Yeah, we were
Okay.
totally just work. And I think this is why like everyone's like, I can't believe you work with your partner. And it's like, honestly, it's like more like, I can't
Sounds
believe I'm
pretty fun.
dating my colleague. Yeah. So, but yeah, so yeah, nothing ludicrous yet. But the first song that we wrote together wound up being one of the singles that he cut with RCA. So I immediately had a major label cut, like within the first few months of 2019. So I was like, okay, that was cool. So we were kind of
That's
like,
an understatement.
yeah,
Go
like
on.
when you put out music or write music with people, like especially if it's kind of in a special way or it gets pressed, like you're kind of like bound to these people for life, whether you're friends or not. But it's really special because so many people write so many songs, especially out in Nashville now. Like I'm realizing like there's like thousands of songs written every day. So for your song to get cut or recorded by an artist, especially a major artist, it's like a huge deal. So, and it was never on my radar to do that. I just always wanted to be an artist. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then from there, I mainly played piano in the session. It's my main instrument other than singing. And he was like, hey, I'm going on a tour. Do you want to come? Like, I need a keyboard player. And, I think you look
Wow.
cool on stage. Yeah. And this is like, this was
How
not
long
like
did you know him when he threw that to you? I'm just curious. So
no,
if it's
so
embarrassing, you don't have to share.
not at all. No, not at all. I mean, people that
Was
you
it like
bond
3
with,
days later? He's like, just run away with
close.
me right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. No, it was literally November, December, January, March.
Oh, that's plenty of time.
Probably
That's
like a
enough
few
time.
months. Probably a few
Yeah.
months, yeah. But yeah, so he knew I wasn't a creeper. And I was like, yeah, sure. Cause I had also like before, if you remember, like, with the same guys in the Rose Monarch, we had the Serotones. We had the band where I played keys and sang backup. So my
I
first
remember you in
taste,
everything. Yeah.
I just do it all. No,
No.
I just
No,
try
you
to
did it
be,
all.
you
Listen,
know?
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I
No,
remember
it's
from the
okay.
beginning, like in our, again, like I'm thinking like high school variety show days. Like it was obvious, like who was talented and who wasn't. You were on the side of talented,
Oh
and I was
man.
just like just give her a shot. Like that was sort of the feeling I think that
Oh my
everybody had.
god, that video of me singing Misery Business is still on the internet. I was 14 and I like had no chill because before that I was like a musical theater girl, and then all of a sudden like this rock band of like
Paramore.
sophomores and
Yeah.
juniors was like singing our band, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. But anyway, so if you do remember from the start times, I was singing backup and playing keys, and honestly, I became a full-time musician by singing backup for people. So Jake asking me to sing on keys and play synths and sing backup, I was like, sure. He also was like, do you play guitar? I need a second guitar player. And I was like, yeah, I could play guitar. I didn't play guitar though. I totally lied. which I don't
Oh
normally
no, I know
do.
you play. I mean, you didn't lie. You said I specifically think you said keyboard and singing are your two main ones. You didn't say you didn't.
Right.
It was exclusive, so you did not lie.
No, no, but I liked him because he's like, "Do you think you could play guitar?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably." And I was like, "Well, I have like 2 months. I could probably figure it out." But um,
I'd have an anxiety attack.
yeah,
Two
no, I
months to
didn't
figure out an
though.
instrument.
Because
Yeah.
the only reason I said that is because a really well-respected bass player that I was working with at the time was like, who gets good gigs still, like right now, is doing huge arena tours. He's like, just lie, get the tour, just lie. I'm like, fine. So it's
Isn't
his
that with
fault.
any gig ever for any category? Like you have to kind of
I
lie a little bit,
I
right?
don't like. I'm not on the side. Like it's funny because Jake's like just fake it till you make it, but I'm a little bit more like forthcoming with like what I'm good at, what I'm not, because I am good at some things, and that's okay. Like to be not great at others. But anyway, so I lied. Couldn't play guitar, but I went to the first rehearsal, and then it was great. I met the other guys. Jerome and Keith were playing in the band at the time. And then the tour started in early April of 2019 and ended in late May of 2019. So it was about a 6.5 week tour around the US and Canada.
Wow. Have you ever
To
done a tour like that before?
the only thing that was close to that was having done a solo tour around the US the summer before that. I did that with like two girls I was touring with at the time. Yeah,
Wow.
but it was so different because it was just us in like a Honda, the three girls. It was just us in like a Honda, like playing like coffee shops and little like kind of things like that and I was just playing piano and singing. So it was a little bit more stripped down. Whereas like these Kulick shows were, I mean, we played the Gramercy in New York, which is where I've seen so many shows. And then all of a sudden I'm like on the stage and there's like a gazillion people watching. I'm like, I cannot believe, like, I cannot believe I'm like on these tours. But yeah, like I think the biggest room was like 1,200 people, which is like for some people it's like haha whatever, but like that was massive to me. Like that's
You
massive.
see my eyes. I'm like, I got sweaty just thinking about it. So I don't listen. Like
You
that's
just black
impressive,
out after the first three
right?
rows. It's like whatever.
Right.
Like it's better to me. It's easier when there's more people there
That makes a
because
lot of
it's
sense.
it's way more awkward trying to play like when mentally you're always playing an arena in your mind and then there's only like three people at a local brewery. It's a little bit more uncomfortable. Whereas like when
Yeah,
there's
you feel like
people
you're
there,
interrupting people when it's three people at a brewery. Like, who is this
yeah,
person? But if you're
yeah.
in
It's
front of a
like
crowd that's dying to see you, it's like I guess it's a little more inspiring for you, right?
yeah, it just feels like okay, I can be cool. Like I can do what I do. It'll be fine. They're here for it. But
The truth is, I
yeah.
imagine you're feeling every emotion possible. Like you're feeling excitement, you're feeling nervousness, you're feeling confidence, you're feeling anxiety. I would imagine
Mhm.
that's all going. I mean, I've never performed musically, but I've
Mhm.
spoken in places where I knew a lot of people were listening. I've done some public speaking events, and yeah, like you just try and hide the fact that your lower back is sweaty, and you go with it, right?
It's funny because me and Jake always talk about this, like public speaking and stuff like comedy. Like we're huge comedy fans.
Hmm.
That is way harder
Oh
because,
yeah,
and like playing alone is like so much harder because at least when you have a band and like maybe you have some backing tracks, like and you're on a click, so it like keeps you set. It's like you kind of have if you mess up or something, like there's something backing you up there. So that like it's funny, like obviously it's not easy, but it's definitely like it's a little bit more forgiving because you have other people, like four other people need to totally mess up for the music to stop. Whereas
right.
like if
Your
you're
team.
public speaking or doing a comedy routine, it's
Like
all
in
on
the
you.
beginning of
So
this intro where my throat started, I was like, great, like, it's perfect start. No, I know the feeling. Yeah, no, I
well,
mean,
that's like this morning when I was trying to contact you and my phone's just decided to like shit the bed. I'm like, great, cool,
I feel
awesome.
like technology sometimes, like you get so comfortable with it and then it just falls off a cliff. But don't worry,
Yeah,
it happens to everybody.
no, I know.
Listen, you gave me a lot there, so I just want to take a step back for a second.
Yeah.
Um, so you go from Long Island popular high school singer to Amityville where you meet Jason Kulick, and you guys just within a few months of knowing each other connect musically, probably more than that. based on the end result of that. But then you decide to go on tour of
Eventually.
that. Yeah, I mean, like I know the spoiler, so I know the ending, so I feel like it was going well.
Yeah.
And then you decide to tour around the country, and now, I mean, you went from living on Long Island to in New York City, and then all of a sudden you took this leap to live in Nashville. I've been to Nashville for a bachelor party. It's a hazy memory, you know. It
Yeah.
was in and out, but it seemed like what was so cool about it was like everywhere you went, there's free music. Like you could just find
Mhm.
free concerts everywhere all over the street, and I loved that. But I remember sitting there going like, "Wow, that guy's amazing. That girl's amazing. That person's like how." Who's like? Why do they have a bucket with a Venmo like begging for cash? Like these people are legitimately talented. So maybe you could talk a little bit about A, the move to Nashville, and B, how you handle the competition of art, because I don't get it. Like I'm a sports fan. There's a score, there's a winner, there's a loser. It's very clear. For
Yeah.
something like art, sometimes people dump paint on a wall and they're like, "This is worth millions." And sometimes I look at the most beautiful piece of artwork that I think somebody painted. Like, wow, this is a really good painting of a fox or a bear, like wildlife. Like I like wildlife art. People are like,
Mhm.
$20 for that. I don't
Right.
understand the competition of art, and I think music is in the same category because ultimately it's about taste. So
Right.
you're living in Nashville, you're surrounded by people that want the same thing. It's sort of like going to LA to be an actor. How do you feel about all of that? And I guess just talk about that for a second.
We chose Nashville based on the fact that I think the music and art community here is unlike any other that I've personally experienced in the US so far. Um, Strictly based off of the fact that I think it is known that, there's a lot of competition in music and art and a lot of differences in taste. But here in Nashville, definitely over the last couple years too, like because it's mostly known as, the country music scene. But primarily we moved here because the goal, no matter what the genre is or the artist, is making a really well thought out piece of work. So it's more about the quality and the time that you spend on something here, whether it's something that someone understands or not. So I think music is appreciated out here when it feels like there's an authentic effort behind it. And people are just so much more willing. Like everybody here in Nashville is here to do music. Everyone you meet's a musician or working in the music industry. So the positive thing is if you don't find your people right away, you will find them. So there's less pettiness, in my opinion, less competition because there are so many people to choose from to work with and to really find your people. And most of the time, everyone's okay with that. It's more of like just all the writing sessions here in Nashville. It's always like you get paired up and it's just like speed dating. And if it works, that's great. And if not, that's cool. I've had writing sessions with people that didn't go well or that we didn't get the right thing. And I'll still see them out and I'll just be like, hey, man, how's it going? Like in New York, I feel like you get snubbed where it's like, oh, yeah, we just, you're not my people, whatever. But here it's like there's this environment of support and just maintaining the quality of music and art. And also people here too, like they have families, they have lives. It's more like it's not just like, oh, I'm a musician and this consumes my entire being. It's like out in Nashville, it's just like having any other job. There's no crazy um like there's no crazy like thing about it. It's just like, oh yeah, like my wife does this and I'm a musician. Easy.
Right.
Like there's no question about it. It's not like this crazy
Yeah.
out of bounds thing. But yeah, competition's always hard just in general. It's really hard not to compare yourself to people. Um I always have had that issue cuz I'm kind of like a tomboy, so I with like normal, and I don't mean to blanket statement like every girl has her own thing, but a lot of women um are way more feminine than me and they can do more things that I don't do or are more comfortable doing different things, and I often compare myself to that. So I used to. I don't anymore because I just feel
Yeah,
like
don't do that.
it's
Why would
just
you do that?
it's just
You're you.
natural. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
natural, and
of
I've
course it's
always just
natural.
sort of felt in between, you know, people. Like I'm always just like, am I this? Am I that? And I don't know. So sometimes I'll compare myself to other girls, and it's natural to do that, but
Things
yeah, I
aren't
don't
always so
know.
black and white. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I feel
exactly.
like that's sort of a cognitive thing that we've all been given in life, just like whether it was how we did grades growing up or right from wrong,
Right,
like you're a good person, you're
right,
a bad person, like you're
right.
yin and you're yang. Life is
Mm-hmm.
not usually like that. Like you're naturally going to compare yourself to other people doing the same work. That's normal.
Right. Yeah.
But you're like,
So
oh man, she's wearing this big fancy dress and heels and doing,
yeah,
something that maybe you wouldn't
like
feel comfortable doing.
yeah,
It's natural to kind of feel that way.
yeah, and like so many girls are just like so gorgeous, and they spend so much time. Some girls they just, I mean, I guess guys do too, but some women spend so much time on self care and their physical appearance and their hair
Guys
and
absolutely do too.
yeah, and it's just it's they're gorgeous, and I just kind of like I'm kind of like a wet dog. I just get out of the shower, shake off, and I'm like I'm ready for the day. Just because that's how I want to spend night time, and I like getting dressed up every once in a while, but like sometimes like I wish I like could do that, or like that made me feel good to do that, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm like, they have their thing, I have mine, and we can coexist and learn from each other eventually, or like I
If
can.
anything, I think your own unique approach or your own authentic approach is probably a better word, will
Mhm.
enhance your credibility with your listeners. Because if you pretend to be somebody you're not, like if I sit here and if I sat here in a tuxedo, you would know immediately something's off. Like I don't wear
Mhm.
tuxedos. I'm not that type of person. And when I
Right.
do, it's like I'm like even on my wedding day, I was counting down the minutes till I could start like loosening it and just getting it. It's just not me. So I think that
Right.
that's very wise to if you're however you describe it, a tomboy, a wet dog, I believe was the description. Do you like start barking? Do what makes you
Yeah.
happy, and I think
Yeah.
that that would respond more with your listeners. And
Yeah.
I guess that kind of leads me to a good question because
Mhm.
ultimately, when you're making music, like I liked what you said about trying to make an authentic sound that's uniquely yours and people are respectful of it, and that's why you live in Nashville. I get all that. But
Mhm.
ultimately, I think a lot of people choose music to chase or art or any profession where you're being consumed. And part of the reason I'm doing this podcast and part of the reason I want to talk about it is because every younger person you talk to, they want to be a star. They want to be a TikTok star. They want to be a YouTube star. They're like, oh, I can do this. I have a phone. Like, yeah, you and everyone else on earth. So I just feel
Yeah.
like that's a daunting thing for a lot of people. I've talked to younger people, mostly people that we have a local spot, park spot where, a lot of people of different ages play basketball. And listen, some high school guys can play, all right? I'm not ashamed to play against some high school guys. But here
Yeah.
it's very interesting for like I'm the oldest person there and hearing them talk about their perspective about what they dream about and what they envision. Everybody seems to have visions of fame and popularity and wealth. And I think that's sort of been categorized as an American dream in a lot of ways. So you're somebody who does music, and obviously, if you hear my annoying dog, I
I'm surprised
apologize.
my dog hasn't done it yet, so we're good. I'm sure I'll like meet you on
I
that
think
in
the
about.
mail's here. Basically. But not to lose my train of thought because I think we had
It's
something good
okay.
going there.
Yeah, yeah.
Fame is something a lot of people obsess about. Being approved is something a lot of people obsess about. Social, I mean, you talk about posting things. I mean, I see your likes. I'm like, holy smokes, she's popular, and a part of me is like, that is awesome. But also, it's like, I feel like, what's the right answer? Because I can do a podcast I'm proud of and listen to it and go, that was one of our best shows. I feel good about it. And, maybe we'll get 30 people that listen to it from beginning to end. And then you go on TikTok, it's like, oh, we got 1,500 people, 1,700 people that watched a clip of it, but these people are not listening to the whole show. So I'll get like really, you know, obsessive at times. Like, how do we get these people here and there? And then I just feel like I need to take a step back and be like, why am I doing this? Do I do
Mhm.
this to have listeners consume me? Or do I do this for attention? So I just think it all comes into the category of dreams and balance. And ultimately, my question to you is fame something you? It's a multi-part question. Sorry.
That's
Is
okay.
fame something you dream about? Is it something that's important to you? Because obviously, in the music business, approval from others is very vital. And how do you choose to handle that? And ultimately, how like do you view yourself as a success or a failure through the eyes of others? It's a tough question, but I'm throwing it at you.
No, it's okay. I got you. Fame is an interesting concept because I think, um, or I guess in terms of like me wanting fame, the closer you get to actually pursuing your career in a way that it pay an artistic career in the way that it pays your bills and can actually support you, which to me is like an achievement in itself. That was always my main goal, is to just, I don't care if I make the same as somebody who has a office job. I just want to make a living doing this. Fame is cool, I guess, but there's like all these ideas now, especially with the people who want to be like influencers and things like that. There's this idea that you're going to work, 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 and then you're going to get there. And there is a very ominous thing. And sort of fame falls into that same ominous category of like, what does that mean? And a lot of people, young people, get carried away with this idea of like a destination happiness, or like we're gonna get there one day. Whereas if you have any career, I think the whole thing is a journey. You're never really gonna. I mean, I guess you could become president of a company, but then then what? Maybe you could become president of a bigger company. I know people that in the music industry now who I admire, who sometimes I'm like, oh, I'd love to be where they're at. I hear them say the same things that I think on a daily basis or feel on a daily basis too. So I think it's kind of all relative to your experience, but I guess my thought too is you need to decide, because fame is not really something you can put a finger on, or like massive success. Like you need to kind of actually make goals, like tangible goals. And I think
For
that's why
yourself.
I think like a lot of artists and creators get so blinded by the idea of fame and success that they don't actually make a roadmap of how to get there. Which I've fallen victim to that too, because it's exciting when a bunch of people are like, oh my God, one day you're gonna play Madison Square Garden. It's like, that would be cool, but like we need to play some smaller venues first. We need to make a living with this first so I can focus on getting better at this. So when I maybe do one day play a big place, I'm ready. So it's sort
Absolutely.
of like taking it slow versus, the way that social media and stuff works now, it's so much instant gratification that people are so hard on themselves when they don't like become famous after a year or become
Right.
successful after a year. Like people are always like, "Oh, April, I knew you'd do this. Like it's amazing what you're doing now, blah blah blah." And it's like I feel like I'm at I'm just starting with where I want to really grow, where I want to grow, because I've been literally trying to pursue being a professional artist since I was at least 13 years old.
That's
Between writing
insane
me,
vision, honestly. Most people don't have that. I was 13 years old. I was not thinking about my long-term goals at all.
yeah, but it still took forever. I only got a publishing deal at 27 years old. That was the first, like, if you want to put it, validation of my career in terms of the industry.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And it still
Right, I
isn't
do.
really something that's a make or break, thing. Um, did I answer the full question? What was the other
You
part
did?
of the
No, no, no.
question?
I kind of threw a philosophical
That's
point
okay.
at you, so it wasn't
But this
really a
is really
question that you could
important. No,
answer.
but this,
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
no,
well,
but
let
this
me
is
ask
really
you, like,
important.
straight up, let me ask you, do you care what people think? You talked about social media, which so many people are obsessed with likes. Like my wife has a dog account. She's like, this one only got 14, and I'm like, who cares? It's our dog. But also, like, sometimes you hit it at the
I
right
want to
time, and
follow
everyone
that.
like, oh, I'll send it to you.
You got to send
Sometimes
that to me.
people, yeah, yeah. It's called It's Always at It's Always Sunny Dude, DOOD. Um, yeah, if anything comes out of this, the dog account's gonna. Can you imagine? Like, forget me and you, the dog account. No, the what was I saying? People obsess over social media kind of naturally. And do you
Yeah.
do you care what other people think in this world of like culture and authenticity? Like, ultimately, you're putting your stuff on a platform that is benefiting the creators of that platform more than the consumers of that platform. And I think anybody that really understands the business side of it does get that. And yet we're still all on social media. We're still addicted to the dopamine, the
Right.
release of dopamine. When you see things, you get your hearts and wow, this one did really well. Like, I remember we broke 2,000 over a clip one time, and I was like, wow, like what was so good about this? Like, you know what I mean? And I start like thinking about like what works and what doesn't work. Like, it's a useful tool in
Right.
that regard, but it can be a little bit obsessive. So straight up, let me ask you, do you care what other people, specifically people you don't know, think of you?
No.
No,
You can't.
not even a little bit.
You can't. I mean, sometimes like when somebody says something nice, it's cool and I
Yeah,
appreciate that. And then somebody says something mean, I'm like, I wonder why they think that. But
right,
at the end of the day, like you have to think of it too. Like social media is its own format. There's other things that define success or validation or forward movement that aren't social media. Arguably, the things that outside of social media are more of a testament to growth and success. So like in the rock music industry and country as well, specifically, live shows, concerts, festivals, they make so much money still. They have such like a strong fan base, so much retention, like such a great retention rate. And a lot of us just seem to think, or I think we've been made to believe that it's all about socials. It's all about, the likes and all this stuff. But again, like there's so many different mediums in which you can also become successful and well known and sort of spread what you're doing. So I don't know, my new sort of agenda in terms of like, I'm I'm in the process of building and pitching a whole new project for myself, which I'm really excited about. And the reason I bring that up is because I just know personally, if social media is a format that sticks around, I'm okay with that. But based on my skill set and who I am as a person, I know that social media is not the right vehicle for me to reach the people I know will appreciate what I do. It's the
you're
main,
so,
as the
you know,
main vehicle, you know?
I'm trying to listen to you because I want to agree with you, and I'm trying to be like, wow, I want that level of confidence, really, because I'm getting a vibe of extreme confidence from you right now.
I
But
just,
with
it's just
no,
the
and that's not,
reality of it,
that's not a bad thing. That's a compliment,
No, it's good.
first and
No, it
foremost.
is.
Take the
It's
compliment.
just it's just the reality of the situation. And
Right.
you need to be real with yourself. Like I
I want
tried,
approval. I want listeners. I want people to
right,
hear what I
right.
say, but I don't want to obsess over it. And I don't want it to be something that, triumphs my more important priorities, like my family and my loved
Yeah,
ones, and just the
right.
passion that I feel, at my job, and at my, for lack of a better term, side hustle. I don't really know how else
Mm-hmm.
to categorize this. This is more or less something like that I just don't want to forget, like a part of me that I don't want to forget, and I want it to still be validated in some way. And I think the most
Sure.
important thing is that you validate it yourself. But, there are days personally you don't exactly feel great about yourself. So I feel like that advice that you gave is, I'm going to try and apply it. Like,
Yeah,
I
man. Like you
appreciate
got to
what you're saying.
remember something. You got to remember something. You, if you want to do this, and this is your passion that you're pursuing, and you want to make podcasts, and you want to be in media, you're literally, we're doing it right now.
We're
So
doing it.
this is the validation. These are the receipts. Like there's no point that you need to get to that says, okay, stamp, he's the podcaster, he's the this. Like you're doing it actively. That's what you need to sort of embody. Like whether you have another job or you do other things on the side, it's like no matter what, you are doing the thing. And eventually, if you continue to do the thing, if you want this to become something you do more than you do other things, all you need to do is stay consistent and it will grow. It's probably going to it's a long game like what I do. It's the same kind of thing. But there's no I think in times that you maybe might falter, because I do this too. In times that you might falter on like, am I, why am I doing this? It's like because we really don't have much time here. This is something you want to do, and why not? And that's it. Like leave it open ended and just do the thing, So it's
It's a great
everything.
philosophy in everything in
Yeah,
life,
like you just have to do it. You don't have that much time, So it's just
with the
important
exception of
to
hardcore drugs.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
use
yeah.
that philosophy
Don't
towards.
no.
So I just
That
realized, like, doesn't apply to all cases everywhere, but most of the time this is very good.
Yeah, like don't do that because that
Yeah,
will make things
don't
more
break the law.
difficult for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will make things more difficult for you if you want to actually do things in
Slight
life.
disclaimer to otherwise very valid advice. Now,
Yeah.
I appreciate everything you're presenting here, and we're almost at time. I just want to make sure we talk. I want to ask you one more question, but I also want to talk about your productions right now and everything you got going on right now. But my first question to you is this is a little bit of a reflection, and it's like a 3-part question.
Okay.
Music dreams. You talked about how you had them since you were 13, and you got your first quote unquote validation in the industry at age 27. So I guess just we don't have to reveal ages, but I guess like if you think about your music dreams 5 years ago, what were they then? You think about your music dreams now, what are they now? And then, what do you think they'll be in 5 years? Because I feel like a lot of people, like you said something interesting, like you accomplish a goal, you get there, you're like, I did it. Whereas now I'm satisfied. No, you just fill that with something else. It's just like, oh, I finally got money. I know a lot of people that got very successful with money, and they're not perfect at all. So
No.
how
Primal.
would you answer that?
It's primal to keep wanting. You're on the hunt. You know what I mean? We don't hunt like other animals anymore. We're always on the hunt. It's an adrenaline rush that we don't get because we're not being actively hunted by other animals. But anyway, that's always my thought.
I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So 5 years ago, okay, so I was like 25 5 years ago. So that's actually when I became a full-time artist or a musician, I'll say. And at the time I was mostly playing backup for people. So my goal then was to be a front woman or have a solo project. And then a couple years later I did that, and I went sort of in a pop direction because it was something different than I'd ever done before, and I wanted to differentiate myself and try to just do something that only I would do. And then I tried that, and a lot of stuff came from it. And now I'm 30 now. I'll be 31 next month.
I'm 31. Let's just get it out there. I'm 31, so we're basically the same age.
We're like the same. Yeah, we're the same age. So yeah. So I'm 30 now, and from all the stuff I learned then, I got to a point where I think was really useful for me, but there wasn't much else I could do to grow from there because I needed to find the right team and I needed to focus. And now I'm in this phase now of heavily focusing in on a style, on an audience, on a method of delivering this highly focused product to the right audience. So, and it's all art still. But right now, I'm strategically making the art that I've always wanted to make. And I'm focusing so heavily on that I'm also focusing extremely heavily on making sure it gets into the right hands, which is based on the new stuff that I'm making. I know the best format's not going to be online. It's going to be in person. So I'm making music to play it live and to really... Yeah, I'm really excited. It's really heavy rock. I'm really stoked on it. I'm going back to my roots, and then some. So it's going to be really cool. But I guess in 5 years from now, or, in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm hoping that I'm going to be playing live most of the time, playing this genre of music, touring, and then sort of just continuing to produce artists that I really like, and hopefully have a family at some point. I can, throw some babies in there or something. But in terms of career,
that'll just happen. You don't even have to plan that. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, so
no, I know.
So I don't know. I think I can be a heavy metal front woman and still get some babies in there. But anyway,
I see no reason what one has to do with the other.
I know, right? But yeah, I guess in 5 years, I basically just want to grow on what I'm doing now. Right now, my life is very heavily focused on production, which I love because it's the main way that I support myself right now, while I'm, creating a new artist project. So I think in terms of, just kind of shifting, like I once had to shift my side gigs playing for other people into the role of being a solo performer. I got support as a solo performer, and then I was able to build my production skills in that time period of being supported in that way. Now I'm supporting myself with production, and I'm hoping to move into this sort of larger realm of playing live and seeing where that goes, and just putting out records and building a really cool team. Yeah.
This is amazing. I mean, full disclosure, you talked about babies. I haven't elected to say this publicly, but my wife and I are expecting a daughter. This is my first time kind of, we don't post, we decided right away, we're like, let's not do this on social media.
I'm not like that either. Yeah.
We're expecting a daughter in June.
Oh no,
And
that's soon.
it's pretty soon. And I want to say that my soon to be here daughter is a huge inspiration for why I'm doing this, because I want her to live in a world where she can be like you, honestly, like dream and continue to accomplish things at her own pace for the validity of herself and her loved ones. And this advice you're giving about, like, focus on the people. I think the most important thing you said is focus on the people in the room. Like, you want to perform live because the people in the room are visibly happy to see you.
Yeah.
You're visibly happy doing it. You get to go back to your roots, hard rock, wet dog. I love it. Like I think that that's really good stuff.
Yeah.
So I just, I sincerely hope that, my daughter can live in a world where she has the option to do all of those things. And
Yeah,
it really
me
does
too.
seem like that is the world that, is trending. So I think that's a very, very positive thing. Now, I want you to take the last few minutes to tell me about Music Square Studio and
Hmm.
everything going on with the production and business aspect of what you're doing in Nashville. Because and if you'd like to share, anything you're working on or anything you want people following, because ultimately the whole point of this is not only to dare to dream loud, but continue to do it. So if you have something
Hmm.
you want to share, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I kind of wanted to say, also kind of piggybacking off what you said just now, was like, it's important to remember, and I also learned this through producing. So this is sort of something to like tie into that next part, but the world as we see it, like on our phones, because it's so small and
Yeah.
we see it all, when in reality you need to just focus on your immediate, because that's really your world, and you can control much more in your immediate world than you can the whole world. So with that being said, me and Jacob started producing a little while ago, but people started reaching out during COVID, like
Oof.
quarantine. A lot of people
Ugh,
got
hated
laid
that
off.
time.
That
Mm-hmm.
was fun. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people got laid off. So anybody that was ever wanting to just quit their jobs and start a music career kind of had the license to do so. So a lot of people were reaching out to us and asking, who produces your music, who does this, who does that. And Jacob and I were always just doing it out of necessity. He studied it in school. I think he's a little bit ahead of me in that way, on a technical level. But we're like, yeah, we do it. And they're like, oh, what are your rates? And we're like, I don't know. What are our rates? So we had to figure that out.
We haven't gotten
So we
that
had to,
far. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, and at the time we're producing out of our second floor bedroom in this apartment on a back road in Pennsylvania. Because in between New York and Nashville, we were camped out in Pennsylvania for like a couple of years. So started doing that. And then from May 2021 till now, we've just been producing different artists' songs and projects every single month, and mixing and mastering and co-writing.
I've
And
listened. There's some real talent there, for sure.
thank you. Yeah, no, it's always great when somebody's really great, because that makes our job as producers easier. Um, and it's nice to foster the talent of people who've never been recorded before, because it's a really special experience to really hear your voice on a record and immortalize this thing that you've made. So anyway, with that being said, when we moved to Nashville, we expected to just sort of like produce out of our apartment again, and because it was working for us. But as you know, there are a lot of different producers doing the exact same thing here. Obviously, the market was not as saturated in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So when we
But
got
that's
here, we
cool
were
though. It reminds me of the Queen movie where they're in like some bar. I mean, Harrisburg is obviously a city, but like it could be, you could be at a farm in 5 minutes. So I feel like it's
no,
probably nice
I
and
mean, we were
private,
like
right?
outskirts. Yeah, we were like
Yeah, love
outskirts,
that.
back alley.
Perfect.
I saw a tumbleweed. I legit did see a tumbleweed, like for the first time ever there.
That's
But
awesome.
anyway, Jacob swears that I'm making that up, but it's 100% true. Like I definitely saw a tumbleweed. But anyway, so when we moved to Nashville, we just, we hustle, because the only way to get seen is to be seen, and you got to be like a parasite. You got to be everywhere. Okay? So we were just talking to everybody, taking as many meetings as we could, introducing himself, myself, what we do together as producers. And we met a guy who runs this company, Interstate Music, and he liked what we did, so he offered a space to us on Music Square to produce out of for a little while. So we've just been producing on Music Row, which is like one of the most historical areas of music, arguably in the U.S. And it definitely in Nashville, it's sort of where it all started. So now we're just producing there. So I actually go to work every day out of physical studio space, and we produce artists there. And it's really like up to the quality of what we do, because we just have the space to do it and the separation of home and work. So we've been producing a lot down here. We've been doing a lot more country than we've ever done before, which is really fun. But we're producing everything from country to folk to pop to rock to metal. And that's sort of what we've been up to. Yeah. And a lot of really cool people are coming through, all different walks of life. So, yeah, we're really excited about that. It's just something that sort of we do to support ourselves, but it also benefits what we're doing as artists, because we get to meet different artists and creators like all the time as well, and learn things from them.
Most importantly, you get up, like let's say you hear that. Let's say you got to get up early to do it. I don't know if you do or don't, but let's say you hear that alarm, you get excited to get up and do things. And I think that is something that not a lot of people feel.
Yeah,
truly.
I have to get through my workout first. That I'm always like, ugh. But then I I'm there it still is tough. Like, I mean, it's still a job. It's still your job. Even like going on tour, like even when I'm like, oh, I love touring, I want to be out on the road. It's like 2 weeks in, you're back to it being a 9 to 5 mentally, So no matter even if you're doing what you love and what you dreamed of doing, it's you can't get jaded, or you can't be hard on yourself when it starts to also feel like a job, because it is. But you got to do things around you, or get excited and get new hobbies that also are exciting to you and can inspire and continue to inspire what you're doing. That's why I love football, because it's so different than what I do on a daily basis. Other than the only thing that kind of gets me, this actually benefited my music. But if you notice, during all of the changeovers at live games and on TV, the changeover music is that's music that somebody makes specific to the program, or it's people get paid out for that music. And a lot of it in the changeovers, it's a lot of heavy metal. If you notice, you have to listen. Sometimes
Pearl
it's
Jam's
like
new single, I think I heard on the NHL.
Yeah,
recently.
It's a lot of rock and a lot of like some like rap and stuff too, but it's always like really powerful stuff. So for a long time,
got a lot of Slim Shady, I think.
Yeah, I got a lot of Eminem, obviously. But it's like as I was watching football, I was like, I want to hear my stuff on those changeovers. Like, and I would manifest that every single time I'm watching a game. But it was a nice little thing of like, yeah, I can see myself in this too. And it inspired a whole new approach to making certain musics for like sports and for sports syncs, which kind of fits what I'm doing a little better too.
Absolutely.
So it's really cool. But
no, I love
anyway, you got to like re-inspire kind of, or just get into different things other than once your sort of love becomes your job, you have to find other loves that sort of just like help it, like kind of like fertilize the whole thing.
I could not agree more. You're gonna see Dan Campbell with one of his massive black coffees headbang into something you wrote one day. I believe that. I really do.
Let's hope.
And maybe you'll get to meet him. I mean, as long as he figures out the occasional field goal concept, I think he's going to be there for a while. So that would be pretty cool.
I think so. He had a 6-year contract, so it's like 3 more years, I think, at least.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah,
so that's your window.
Love to meet.
That's your
window.
window.
I would love to meet him. Yeah, I would love to meet him.
I want to end with this. This has been so great, April. In the past year, and I mostly wanted to hear about you and hear about future guests on this program, but I want to make sure, if you've managed to listen all the way to the end, thank you, because not a ton of people do that. But if you've listened this far, I just want to actually talk about, the life I lived where I got up to work just to work, and now the life I live where I get up and I'm actually excited to go somewhere. It all started because I got let go. Like, I worked, I've always wanted to work in media. I always wanted to be a voice. Actually, when I was a kid, I heard Mad Dog Russo on the radio, and I was like, so they sit around and they talk to people calling, tell them how they're wrong, get to hang up on them mid-sentence. They're right about everything. And why are they I still couldn't get around my head around. I'm like, why are they the experts? Oh, like they just watch a lot. And I'm like, I watch a lot. So I was like, why can't that be me? And obviously, it's insanely competitive. I hate some of the business aspects of it, and that's why I love. Actually, I at first I was scared of technology, but now I love that I can do this at my own leisure, in my own style, and that is a blessing. But the professional world, the business world, the money making world, I was always sort of in between. Like, am I doing the right thing? This, that. Hit some hardships in the last year with the media world. Everybody knows there was writer strikes and AI and everything. And I actually was able to make a change where I now work in professional sports. So it might not always be like how you imagine things. I never imagined it would be this way. I never imagined my previous experience would result in me working professional sports. I never thought that this platform would have such a cool new possible way of talking to people. I never thought we would talk ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember you were close with some friends of mine, and we had like circles that, you know, it was like a Venn diagram, like maybe they intertwined. Yeah. Oh, there was overlap, but now, like, you never know what life can bring you. And ultimately that's why I want not only my daughter, but my future daughter, but any person out there that hears this to understand that it's okay to have loud dreams. You just have to actually think about what you want to do with them, and you have to make sure you put in the work to mentally comprehend what it is you want and what you need to feel happy about it. Because I've talked to so many people who are like, man, I'm not a star, or I'm not a millionaire, or I'm not this, I'm not that, and that's just embodying us. And I just want to rip it out. Like, I want to go to surgery and I want to rip it out and throw it away. You, April Gabrielli, have already done all that since you were 13 years old. And I just want to say that's incredible. And I really thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you too. You're doing great. And I'm a huge believer in you and a big fan. So I think you'll be just fine. Just don't give up on yourself.
Do I hear a little Nashville accent in there? You said, I think the way you said fan, that was not Long Island.
My Long Island accent has dissipated because, well, I was in New York City, which other than in the boroughs, they don't really have accents. Everybody's a transplant.
Right.
Then I was in Pennsylvania, so it sort of dissipated. And now I'm here, so sometimes now I'm just like screwed. But when I talk to my family, like Jake says it always, if I'm around my family or other Long Islanders or people, I have friends from Staten Island too. He says my voice goes up like 10 decibels and my accent comes back like that. So, but yeah, you're going to be fine.
A pizza or a bagel, and it's going to come right back. No worries.
I know, that's what I'm missing.
Don't worry, we'll find a platform for you to ship them. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. The compliment, by the way, I didn't mean. You notice how I defer the subject when there's a compliment.
I do that all the time.
But thank you. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Same to you. I'm really inspired by the work you do, and this was fun for me. And I'm looking forward to continuing this series. And as always, whenever I sign off Next Man Up or Knicks in 6 or any of the sports content we've been doing, like, I'm excited to do something a little more real and not just about arguing about who's the best quarterback or whatever. This is fun. So thank you so much for joining.
No problem.
Sorry about your Lions. Love the jersey. Love the vibe. And as always, take care of yourself and be well.
You too.